This episode of the Coarse Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hi, this is Stephen Reichland from Project Fire and Project Smoke, and you're listening to Shawn Rosler on the Coarse Grind Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode number 167. Episode number 167 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you as always this evening, host creator Shawn Rosler. How the hell is everyone doing? If you've listened to the show with any kind of consistency, you'll know that for as much as unpredictable in the business of food and drink, there are some constants. Long hours, passion, coarse language, dedication. These are all concepts we see day in and day out in the business that make it incredible to watch. Theater of the palate, if you will. Then there's another constant we come to know all too frequently, and that constant is loss. We saw it with Bourdain, we've seen it with others, and we'll continue to see it. Tonight, I'm honored to say we've got a guest who will help us reflect on a loss and share with us all that she's done with it since, as well as the rest of her story. Don't worry. Tonight's guest was bitten by the food service industry bug in early age, and based on everything I've read and understand, she's not looked back since. She's found the ability to weave her passions, talent, and intelligence and heart into a 40-plus year career in food and drink, which seems difficult to believe since she's only 29. Wink, wink. A successful career in all aspects, both food and foodie, would be a marked understatement given her expertise in team development, culinary management, not to mention kindness, in a business where it's rarely felt in the wrong environments, but still. She's been embraced by many of Food Network's strongest talents, including Guy Fieri, and admittedly, the reason I discovered her, Chef Carl Ruiz. Since the Cuban's passing and 1 week prior agreeing to do this show, I've wondered how I'd ever fill in that knowledge gap on the show. And fill it in we shall tonight with a culinary lifer and keeper of the Ruizing torch, who I hope to stay in contact with for a very, very long time to come. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, right hand sous chef, dear friend, and keeper of the Cuban himself, Chef Carl Ruiz, Chef Gloria Chabot. What is going on, Gloria?
Wow, that's one heck of an intro, that's for sure.
If I'm going to bring you out, I want to bring you out right and proper and then disappoint you as the show goes on. That's my goal. Bring them out high and let them down quick.
I love it.
Yeah, it's what I do. Ask my wife. She's been married to me for 20 years. It's been a downhill ever since. It is an absolute honor. For those listening, you've heard me talk about, Opie Radio Podcast, Carl, all these things. And if you were a listener of Opie, and why would you not be? You've heard the name Gloria constantly. This is the Gloria, guys. This is her. This is the Gloria! Gloria! I try to keep my Carl impersonations to a minimum, but every once in a while they gotta come out.
Yes.
So this is Gloria, people. Wake up. This is gonna be friggin' amazing. Gloria, thank you. Thank you for, and I'm sure you've been thanked, but just on a personal note, before we just go diving right into your story, thank you for being who you were to him, because for us on the other side of the looking glass, he was talent, but he was kind. If you had the opportunity to talk with him, like that persona kind of fell down, that intense guy. he was truly a teddy bear. He was a nice guy who wanted you to feel cared for, and it harkened me back to Bourdain. People who were close to Bourdain would say, like, even up until the very end, if he was cooking for you, he'd hover over the table and watch for your reaction. And
my God,
Carl just loved people in the same way.
He did, and he loved nothing more to listen to the different stories that everybody carried. And when he was with you 110%.
Yeah.
And you were the center of whatever it was he was talking about. And when he was done understanding who you were and what gifts you had, from that point on, whenever he was introducing you to someone, you were the best of whatever that was. Whether you were a shoe salesman, whether you were a chef, whether you were a wallpaper, it didn't matter. At any point after that, once he knew what you did, he would introduce you as the best at whatever that was, and make sure that anybody else in the room knew that you were the best at what you did.
And that that just makes it hurt all the worse, because in this industry, in both culinary and let's call it what it is, celebrity, both are kind of cutthroat in that way, and you look to cut people down. And again, everything I heard and the limited interaction I had with the guy, all he looked to do is build people up. Yep,
that's what he did. He was all about that, and he knew so much about so many different things because he kept his world open to. He didn't just stay in the chef world. He dabbled with anybody who was breathing. I mean, that's just who he was. He wanted to know your story. He wanted to know what you did. He wanted to know about what you did so that he could be smarter about different things. Cars and watches weren't a bad thing.
Right.
But, there really wasn't any industry or any business that he wasn't excited to learn more about. And that's just who he was.
What a guy. Yeah. I mean, what a freaking guy. Now, I said that, everybody was treated that way except for Roland Campos. And sorry, Roland, your podcast sucks. But anyway, moving on. I'm just going to say.
And that, I would just say, he never held grudges.
No.
He just moved on.
Right?
He never wasted, and there's a lot of things that he could have, or I would question why didn't he. And honest to God, he just really, it wasn't worth the energy to him.
No.
He just figured everybody would get their comeuppance at their own time, and he didn't need to add to it.
That's right. Again, I mean, the more you hear, the more it's just a gut punch. It's like, why? Why such a guy? Why such a guy? But anyway, I digress. Yeah. Gloria, you're here with us, and I could not be more thrilled to connect with you. You are the keeper of the torch of the Chef Carl Ruiz page on Facebook, and again, that's how we came to meet. And so, I start digging, thinking like, it was a friend of Carl. And then I find out your backstory, and holy shit, you've done some things, ma'am. So without further ado, listeners new to the program or with terrible short-term memories like me, we're going to touch on starters, mains, and after starters. We're going to talk about where the guest in question came from, what's their backstory. Mains, we're going to talk about where they're at, what they're doing now. And I know you're all over the place, Gloria. And then finally, afters, we're going to talk about some things a little bit more irreverent, a little bit more off the cuff. No one has been injured in 166 episodes. So I don't see it happening tonight, but who knows, shit happens. So without further ado, Gloria, tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
Oh my God. I obviously have been around the block long enough that I was before fast food. Mm-hmm. So we ate at home, for the most part. My mom was Puerto Rican, my dad Armenian, but we basically ate mostly, my mom was part Italian, so we ate a lot of Italian food growing up, lasagna and spaghetti and all those kind of good things, but for the most part it was pretty simple, basic food. My mother never could make a piece of fish without making it look like shoe leather. I didn't grow up with fresh vegetables. We grew up with canned vegetables, and then we moved on to frozen. So, this whole generation of today of farm to table and in your backyard, I mean, that just didn't happen in Brooklyn. And in growing up in Brooklyn, I can remember the produce vendor driving down in a truck down the street, and the fishmonger the same way. It was a very different world, for sure. Wow. My mom didn't go to the market, a 200,000 square foot grocery store. We're living in Brooklyn. No. We walked down the block. The butcher was there. The baker was there. You bought 3 rolls. You bought 4 pieces of chicken, and you walked up your 5th floor, walk up, and that was growing up. And then we moved what I call across the street to New Jersey, and that's about the time fast food was coming around, and you drove 10 miles to go to McDonald's, and that was like a big event. And outside of that, the only time that we went out for dining really was Chinese food, because it was the one thing my mom really didn't do. Nice. But then for me, I like to fiddle around the kitchen baking, and so I would do that. And so that was the stuff I played around with in the kitchen, and I put myself through high school and kind of baking birthday cakes and things like that for kids in the neighborhood, and that's where I started, and I had fun.
Nice. So a varied culinary upbringing, and yet in some ways a limited one. From all accounts. Given those parameters, how would you qualify yourself as an eater as a young kid? I know some people who come to be grand Epicureans were the pickiest eaters, and some were just very open to it. What was your story?
Pretty basic. I mean, if you wanted, there was one meal provided at the table. There weren't any alternatives. There weren't any choices. Mm-hmm. So that was dinner, and that's what you ate. So that was pretty much the norm. I wasn't afraid of anything. Mm-hmm. But again, a limited exposure to those things. I can remember when I was going off to culinary school, my aunt took me to Lake Ranui in New York City, classic French restaurant, so I could have escargot before I went off to school. So I would have broadened that palate, if you will, before I went off to culinary school.
At least something in your back pocket to that degree.
Yeah.
But before we get to the culinary school part, which we know with that wonderful word chef in front of your name, still in the childhood phase.
Yep.
Talk to me about, I feel like most of us have them, and then I ask some people and they look at me like, oh, what? The nostalgia dishes. The things that you either smell or hear of, and somebody made it, and it literally can transport you in time back. Talk to me about a couple of those for you.
Rice pudding, cooking on the stove, smelling the cinnamon and the milk reducing and just the sweetness that permeated the air for sure. Mm-hmm. Lasagna, my mother making brajol, and having the sauce being made in the house usually once a week there would be sauce cooking. That for me was a standard, and going to get the loaf of bread and dipping it in the sauce that's on the stove top and trying not to get caught. Those were the things. Those for me were the food memories, if you will. And then it was the little things like going to the bakery and getting what classic was called a Charlotte Russe, which used to be served in a cardboard collar, and you would push up the cake that was topped with fruit and whipped cream. But it was rarely made because it was such a pain in the neck. But that would have been a treat to have.
Gotcha.
Just fun stuff.
Fun stuff. And yet here, just fun stuff, she says. And we know the after story. We know the 40 years in between. So kind of big jump from just basic palate shoe leather fish to who you are. So there had to be somebody who was like the lightning rod for you. Who would you say your greatest culinary influence was?
Oh, for sure. Not even a doubt about that. That would have been Joe Baum.
Okay.
Creator of Windows on the World, Tavern on the Green. I had an opportunity to meet him as a child, 16-year-old.
Okay.
I was on the path to go to school to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. That's sort of like what you did. And I was first generation female going to college. I was the first child in our family to go away to college. Anybody else had gone in the city and gone commuting or, day school. Mm-hmm. And, the teaching colleges were closing up because the demographics had dropped so desperately for young kids, so the schools were closing. Mm-hmm. So the only other thing I knew how to do was bake. And so I said, okay, I can go do this. I'll go to cooking school. And there were two. There was CIA in Hyde Park, New York. There was Johnson Wales in Rhode Island. And living in New Jersey then at that time, Rhode Island seemed so far away. It seemed like the right answer to do. Yeah. And I got a chance. A family friend knew what I was thinking about doing and had Joe Baum call me, and you would have thought, again, as a Jersey kid, that Bruce Springsteen would have called me.
Wow.
I answered the phone, this 16-year-old, and he says, hey, this is Joe Baum, and I'm screaming as if it was a celebrity, and he was, to me.
Yeah. Because
of what he had created. Windows had just opened, and he invited me to come into the city for the day, to just literally spend the entire day in a professional kitchen. And that time, Windows on the World was 2 floors of kitchens. It was huge. It was massive. I mean, it took the whole floor up of the World Trade Center and then the second floor above it. And I just ran around. Albert Cuban was there, who ended up becoming the pastry chef for the White House. Barbara Kafka's just hanging out in the office. Famous cookbook writer and New York Times food reviewer. Mm-hmm. And I'm just 16 going, oh my gosh, and just walking around. And at the end of it, he says to me, you're a really nice kid from the suburbs and as lily white as it comes. You can't just go to culinary school because you want to be a food manager. You got to go to school because you want to get your hands dirty.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, he said, you know, if you don't understand the kitchen, all your profits are going to go in the dish sink. And he said, when that chef takes the roasted plaque and throws it over to the dishwasher and he didn't deglaze it, you're screwed. You don't understand anything about your food. You don't understand anything about your profits or your taste. You got to learn the kitchen. And so I said, okay. So that's why I went to culinary school. But it was because of his urging.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I feel you so much on the whole what celebrity is. When I tried to share when I was young and coming up, and I didn't go to culinary school, but when I tried to share who Justin Wilson was, who Martin Yan was, some of these other greats to me, because I woke up on a Saturday morning, and when normal kids watch cartoons, I watched public television. And
for sure.
The Saturday morning reel was great chefs of the Southwest, of the Northeast, of the Northwest, of all this shit. And like everybody in between, people never got it. And it's so funny to be in the here and now and watch people, fawn over these celeb chefs, these mega chefs, and us kind of sitting back. I say us, I'm mentioning my name and your name in the same sentence. I don't know why. That's pretty presumptuous of me. But, you lean back and you go, I told you. Like, why didn't you listen to me? Why didn't you listen to me? What really matters at the end of the day? But I digress. This is about you, not about my awkwardness. So Joe Baum, Tavern on the Green, all of a sudden you have this lightning strike. You know what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about how that began to unfold.
Went to, was so excited. I opted for Johnson Wales, A, because it was far away, or so I thought, and B, because I could get my bachelor's degree. So that was important for me to do that. CIA did not offer that at the time. It was just 2 years in culinary. And so I head off. As I do that, my parents decide to move to Taiwan. So I am literally on my own. In the States. I just turned 18. I get to Johnson & Wales, and the campus is made of predominantly of guys on the GI Bill, so they're 25, 26. They'd spent time in the military, and their lifestyle and mine were completely disparate, and different experiences for sure. And I got to school, and you're in all white uniform, you're chopping and you're cooking and you're throwing yourself in, and it was amazing. I totally went in not thinking I was walking out as a chef. Mm-hmm. I was going to walk out with knowledge that would have required more time in the kitchen, but I never wanted to be that. My path was, I never dreamed to be solely the chef. I truly knew that I wanted to end up in management because I wanted a family, and I wanted not to have those hours that were attached to it. And so I did my full 4 and walked out. And soon after I finished school, while I was in school, I was working as a private chef in Newport, Rhode Island, which was a blast. Probably I made the best money out of my life there, if you really think about it, which is really sad. But it was this, if you know the mansions in Newport, where the Vanderbilts, so there are still people that live in those real life. And this is this is the only one that is still owned by the original family of the time period of the Vanderbilts. They owned land in Park Avenue from when it was New Amsterdam, New York was.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And they are the woman was, Barton and Goustier Wine is a label you'll see. She's the G, and she and her sister Jacqueline owned all these vineyards in France, and her son now owns part of Stag's Leap. And so I was their chef. I would cook for them for their summers, and it was a blast. Best time of my life in a mansion on the Cliff Walk in Newport. Just couldn't. I did that for 3 years. It was the best job of my life. Just a blast.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
So it comes as no small surprise then that with this pedigree, and we're gonna fill in some years here between how I met you and Johnson & Wales. It doesn't surprise me then to consider that, you've made these leaps and these bounds into circles that definitely, surf the high stratosphere of what we consider to be the culinary scene. So talk to me about, and you can encapsulate or explain as much or as little as you want, how we got from point A, Newport and Johnson & Wales, to point B, Guy Fieri, Carl Ruiz in the same sentence as you.
Yes,
what
sure,
happened?
It's an easy leap.
Yeah, for sure.
So it really is an easy leap. I walked out of culinary school. As I said, I wanted to have a family. I got married right out of school, and I wanted a job that everybody was going to work on cruise ships or in hotel catering. Those were like hot jobs, if you will. And neither of those attracted to me because I just knew those were nights, weekends, holidays. Yeah. And while I knew people ate at other times, and I wanted to focus on that, so I went into what's called contract food service, and which enables you, so at a college or a university or a corporate setting where the food is provided by another company, that's what I did. And so I worked for one company doing that for 16 years, kind of piddled a little bit and went to work for Pizza Hut for a little while doing non-traditional sales. And then I went back into contract food service because I really missed it. And while I was working for the company that I am today, they partnered a deal with Guy Fieri to open up a restaurant concept at a university in New Jersey. And it was a handshake agreement, if you will. So the first time they're coming up with the idea that they're going to do this deal, myself and two others fly out to California to meet Guy, and the two others being my boss and somebody in contract, and neither had really done their homework on who Guy was. I knew who he was intimately in terms of family. He had lost his sister. I knew his cookbook cover to cover. And so we get out there, and his business manager says, okay, you're going to have this meeting, but he's probably not going to go for the deal. And just know you're probably going to get maybe an hour out of him at the most. And when I give you the signal, you need to go. Well, that meeting turned into 6 hours. He and I, when we started talking, he had me come down the kitchen in his restaurant. We're noodling around. We're figuring out how to make burgers. He showed me what he does. It was an instant bond. It was a complete respect on both sides for what each brought to the table and backgrounds. And it was amazing. And as we progressed, I spent a year working on this concept with Guy and his team. We hit a few roadblocks, if you will. Again, with my experience, I know how to feed volumes of folks. And Guy was at the time more comfortable with his restaurant. So if they didn't have enough servers and they wanted to slow things down, they might take some tables or chairs out to be able to not, slow down service. For me, in a university, I don't have that luxury, if you will. When a class breaks and 2,000 kids walk in, I have to feed them. And so we had some how do you put it? Not disagreements, but let's say differences of opinion as to what should be on the menu. Okay. As an example, Guy, I wanted a bacon burger on the menu. When Guy makes a bacon burger, he does it what's called, it's like a lattice weave, piggyback he calls it, and he weaves the bacon strips. Again, great in a restaurant that you operate 365 days a year, but in the college where you open and close for spring breaks, your staff changes kind of regularly. It's hard to put that kind of an item in with any staying power. And so he would say, well, then you don't get the burger. And I'm like, okay, then I don't want the burger. And, cause I can't make it happen. And so we got into these push and shoves. So he says, I have somebody who I think can translate for both of us. And that's how I met Carl. And so he sent Carl to figure out if I was crazy or they needed to adapt. And after Carl and I met and we talked through the menu, and again, he wasn't used to that kind of volume, but saw that I knew what I was talking about. He helped me maneuver what we needed to get a concept that was amazing, and with Guy's blessing. And that's what we did. And so he worked day and night to build this concept in the middle of Hurricane Sandy. We were supposed to open up the concept and the restaurant, and I can remember calling Guy and his business manager and saying, we're not going to open. There's a hurricane. He's like, what's the deal? It's raining. Not Guy, but his business manager. He's like, it's raining. He's like, can't you get to work? I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's no gas. There's no,
right.
The roads are closed. It's a state of emergency. And, oh my God, it was crazy times, but we got it open. It was amazing, and it was a great experience. I mean, like I said, we just bonded. It was a really easy comfortable friendship and respect in the kitchen, and we just partnered together to make it happen. It couldn't have been any better. And then when we opened the restaurant, we opened it like right after, so that was Octoberish. And then Guy was due to come out. He hadn't seen it live. We'd done some Zoom calls, if you will, at the time. What was Zoom at the time? And he was due to come out in December, but that was right when the Pete Wells interview write-up was in the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a great time for wanting PR. And so I knew he was coming. We had the date scheduled, and the school really wanted to publicize it all over the place, and I wouldn't let them. And I told them that the only person that Guy would interview would be a student reporter, because a student reporter isn't considered a credible source to the media. Mm-hmm. So they can't use it as a source. So I knew that I could have a closed campus. And when Guy got there, we had the police escort, we had a band. He was blown away. The kids were lined up on one single posting on Facebook that told him that he was going to be there in 2 hours. They were lined up around the building. He was blown away. It was just a love fest. And he was so blown away by the restaurant, the concept. He was really, really happy. And so we've just, again, continued that friendship and partnership. We as a partner, as a company, did not continue with Guy, only because we weren't able to get enough places opened like it. So our deal was, and that's fine, but the friendship on a personal level has remained in place.
That's incredible. So just help me timestamp that year-wise, month and year-wise, just so I can...
10, yeah, it's about 10. So Hurricane Sandy, what is that, 10 years?
Yeah, it's going on 10 years now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's when it would have been.
Yep. And for what it's worth, I remember Hurricane Sandy because I was supposed to go out to a conference out in Vegas and fly out of Philly. And it's like, Philly's flooded. I'm like, wait, what? Wait, Philly's flooded? Explain to me how that works. And then I walked out my driveway and I saw my garbage can kicked literally 200 feet the other way, the other end of my driveway, punctured a hole in my metal light post, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going out here. Screw this. And I just closed the door. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be trying to get a refund for that flight because I'm not going.
So it was crazy. And then we had a snowstorm right after, if you remember.
Yeah. So it's crazy. So the friendship with Guy then, still strong. The, business connection didn't. Talk to me about how the relationship then with Carl continued.
Oh my God!
Crazy. How could it not? How could it not? Gloria!
It was just always comical. I mean, I'm 15 years older than he is. It's totally, completely different lifestyles. But there was just this common friendship. And he and I did a few other restaurant concepts together. When he wanted to go hit the road and he needed to do a demo, I would go ahead and I'd do the Sous Chef part and get all the mise en place set up for him and then set him up for success. And it just was fun. We had fun on the road. We traveled all over the place. And it was just really comfortable. It was just good friends. It laughed our asses off all the time.
I cannot see
oh my God,
how you couldn't have. Without getting too much into it, and I want to ask you some questions like if Carl were here with you, I'm going to ask you some opinion questions that I know you could answer for me with the same bitter acidity that he would. But before I do that, you got to give me like your top story, your top, oh my God, I'm going to die laughing story of Carl.
I can't even. There's so many freaking ones. Everything ended up to be an adventure. When we went to Nantucket and he, it was a comedy fest. We were there with Vic. Opie was there. Sherrod was there. And we went from one rest to the other, and we fell in. Everywhere we went, it always seemed like we fell into a bachelorette party. I swear to God, no lie. There was always a bachelorette party, and then he became part of it. It just was what it was. It happened in Savannah. It happened in Connecticut. I can name the cities that, out of randomness, you turn left and you're in the middle of a bachelorette party. And I'm like, how do you do this? Like, what? And he just became...
It's him, man. It's him.
He was like a bachelorette party magnet. I don't know how he did it, but that's what it was. And everywhere we went, there was always... I don't care. We would be in East Bumfuck, and somebody would recognize him. And I'm like, are you freaking serious? Like, it's not like you're Brad Pitt, dude. Like,
he's better than Brad Pitt. Fuck Brad Pitt.
Oh my God! But he's a guy with a cap on, and he's got these glasses, and he's got the gap in his tooth. And it didn't matter. Yeah. We were sitting in a restaurant in Richmond. We went to this barbecue restaurant in Richmond. I can remember, and we're sitting at the counter, and the chef is staring at us, and I'm like, Carl, we're being stared at. He's like, no. I'm like, I'm telling you, and damned if they don't recognize. I mean, there's 150 people in the restaurant. She's going to figure him out. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Yep. But it happened all the time, wherever we were. And, there are nights and stories that shall never be shared, but there are definitely, I will just tell you that any and all of them have always been fun, adventurous, and we always made new friends wherever we were.
That's what I've heard from the recounts that I've been privy to. I will say this to the Sherrod, Vic, and Carl Bermuda Triangle of getting shit on when I got my Ruizing hat. True story. I posted a picture of it. The brim's flat, and I post a picture of it. I'm like, hey, blah blah blah. Hashtag Ruizing. Wouldn't you goddamn know it? Vic Henley's the first to chime in and go, gotta bend your brim, Billy Ray. What the fuck are you doing? I'm like, wait, did Vic Henley just shit on me? And then Carl jumps in and he's like, leave him alone, he looks good. And Sherrod's like, man, you look half homeless or some shit. And like, they're all just like taking punches at me. I'm like, this is kind of cool. I'm like, I think this is where I want to be.
So I'll give you this one. Probably one of the most outrageous was, my daughter's birthday. So we went into...
Oh, is this the steakhouse story?
It's at Butter. We were at Alex's restaurant, Butter.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
And so Carl obviously is part of my family. My whole family knows him. It was Becca's birthday. We're going to go to Butter. I invite him to join us. He says, absolutely. And that's pretty rare for him, because for him to commit to something, you just never counted. So we get to Butter. Becca and I are there. And he's a little late, no surprise, but I saw that he had come into the city earlier in the day. So I knew that, because he showed a picture, he was with Vic and then he was with Sherrod. So I knew at some point he was going to land at the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So we get there, and all of a sudden, we're waiting for him, and it's a Sunday night. I think it was a Sunday night Butter. And in walks Carl with Vic, with Sherrod, and with, Nick
Solares, who's former guest of the show, friend of the show.
And they were as drunk as a skunk because they've been imbibing since 2 p.m.
Yep.
And they come in louder than you know what. And this is a really nice, classy restaurant. And my daughter looks at me like, are you kidding me?
For folks listening at home, this is Alex Guarnaschelli we're talking about here.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
So
oh my God.
Alex is not there. So we get there and we're sitting at this table. And so he's like, and of course I made reservations for 3, not reservations for 7. And so I'm like, God, Carl, I don't know what, he's like, we got it covered. I'm like, okay. So they see
Don't worry about it, Gloria.
Exactly. It's exactly what he said. So we sit down at the restaurant and they're ordering every drink on the menu. They're drinking smoked drinks that have a smoke infused in them. Sherrod is like, oh my God, 74 sheets to the wind. And then we go to order dinner. And Nick wants to order the tomahawk steak, but he wants to see the steak.
He wants to see the steak first. Yes.
Yes. And the waiter's like, well, you want to what? He's like, I want to see exactly which rib it's coming, where this is coming from. And so it was a mess. They were the loudest group, and every other word out of Sherrod was one that typically was not mentioned in a restaurant, and their people around us are like looking, and he's God. Like, it was wild as anything. And so this went on, and so Carl is texting Alex throughout the whole dinner, like, it's okay, we're good, don't believe the stories that you hear, kind of thing. And my daughter, and throughout this whole night, we formulate the plan that they're going to do a comedy night for Carl's birthday.
Oh my God.
And so now we're booking to see who's got dates open or not. Like, we're looking at all these comedians, and I'm Googling who's got a schedule, who's on the road that day, so they can create this birthday party for Carl, and that he can do stand up.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. And so that was my daughter's birthday. And Vic Henley, like, literally he was like, all they do is call me, Gloria. They just called me. I just came because they called me. I didn't know what else to do. Like, I'm like, right, got it, Vic. Yeah, and it was a night from hell. And then the best was we ordered for so finally it's, like I said, her birthday. There's no cake. We didn't do that, but Alex has on her menu these donuts that she makes from scratch and freshly fries. And so Sherrod was like blown away because he couldn't figure out how they put hot jelly in the donut. Like, and I'm like, God, you're missing the point here, honey. It's the donut that's hot, that warms still. He's like, no, Gloria, I'm telling you, the jelly was hot when they put it in there. I'm like, okay, sure, absolutely. And he was devouring it, and my daughter's still looking at me across the table like, you really are doing this to me? Like, you did this to me? Oh my God. And then at one point they almost got into a fight, Sherrod and this other guy.
Yes, because wasn't it? It was a girl at the other table that the guy thought Sherrod. Yes,
it was his wife, and she's trying to pick up Sherrod while the guy's like, you. Oh my God! And so we're like upstairs, we're outside from the restaurant. We're still not done with our dinner. Then we come back. I mean, it was just, oh my God!
God damn! I remember hearing this play-by-play.
Oh my
on
God.
Opie's show, and it's like, what the fuck really happened? That really happened?
Oh, it really happened. The whole thing from play, and then we had the birthday party that we did, the comedy thing that he did, the comedy
God,
store. It was crazy. Clutch. And when he opened up the show, when Vic opened up the show, he said, "This all started because of Gloria's daughter's birthday. This is why we're here tonight." I'm like, oh my God.
Man, that is spectacular, and that's just,
but that's a typical night.
Right, that's a typical night, and I'm here laughing my balls off. So, like, I can only begin to imagine, what it's like, and again, for those not in the know, obviously Chef Carl is no longer with us. Vic Henley no longer with us as well. No. Two just immense powder keg losses to the comedy world. They can't break my balls anymore about my hat. And Vic, if you're listening, the brim has naturally bent. Sorry to disappoint you, Chef Carl. Sorry if that's the way it's went. But God, what a story, and what a great way to like close like the loop on how I come to discover you, Gloria. What a cool, like, and that's, I think if there's anything that I've loved most about sitting in the chair, not to mention Nick has been on the show 3 times now, I think. And Nick is just a wonderful, lovely human being. I adore talking to him, but it's like everything in this culinary world, as vast and as big as it seems, ultimately connects to one another. And it's so wacky that it would. So with that in mind, I want to ask you some questions, Gloria, because I know you know how the Cuban would answer them. And so, naturally I want to know your answer, but if Carl were sitting next to you, what would he say? God. So talk, trends in the food industry, right? If we're sitting around the table, we're getting a nice buzz on, we're getting a nice belly full of food, and we start to talk culinary trends, right? They come, they go, they're annoying, they're lovely, all at the same time. What's going to be the next big thing that the world falls in love with, trend-wise?
The question is not what they fall in love with, is what they're going to be able to have based upon the shortages that are coming.
Well, fair. Okay. Then based on that, take that into consideration. What do people fall in love with next? Or does that drive the trend?
It's going to drive it because through an absence of product, that's what's going to happen.
So that's almost like an availability type trend.
Availability and the ability to pay. I mean, seafood is going to be off the chart. It already is growing. Chicken is growing by leaps and bounds. The percentages are double digit, and the availability of it. They slaughtered a whole bunch of cattle and pork, and so the availability is going to go away. So I think out of that's going to be, you're going to see a push for grains and things like that. The plant-based foods are going to be out of necessity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are we at the point yet? And God, if I could have the Cuban sitting in a chair right now, I'd love to ask him, Carl, are we at the point that we're eating bugs? Like, I don't think we're there yet. Are we? Are we?
No. And there'd be no point he'd be ready to be there.
Like, coming now!
He's not going to see that at all, for sure. But, but again, the food that he loved and enjoyed, which is pizza, which is hot dogs, I think he's going to be pretty safe on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he wasn't about the fancy frou-frou food. He was just about good food done well, no pretense.
This is what I love. And, I talk to kids coming out of culinary school. I talk to college kids, whoever's listening, I've had the blessing and benefit of talking to, some audiences, and what I always try to reinforce is that, like, look, I don't care what you walk out of there with, never forget what you came from. So if you liked it then, your diners will like it.
Yep.
Now. And it's okay, and it doesn't make you better or worse to embrace that style. Like, right now, man, I cannot tell you, the other day, kids are home for summer. They're out playing in the pool, and I'm busy. I'm in the middle of my work day. My wife and I are what we call work from home hipsters. We were doing it before it was cool, thanks COVID. And the boys got friends over swimming. I'm like, cool. I'm gonna go make hot dogs. And there is nothing better in the world than a grilled hot dog on a hot summer day with fresh white onion, straight yellow mustard, money every day.
Absolutely.
Every day. And I gotta believe, I think if you get food the way that you do, Gloria, the way that Carl did, the way that, some of us do, you can find joy in that, as well as the steak tartare from, Pete Luger's or wherever.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we, to go eat dinner at the Gray in Savannah with, Mashama Bailey. I mean, Carl walked in begrudgingly, and I'm like, we're going to go eat this meal, I'm telling you. And he walked out blown away by every course, every attention to detail, because it was true food. It wasn't tweezer food. Yes. It was food that literally had taste and purpose on the plate. Yeah. And again, and then we went out into pizza. But I'm just saying that it's just, good food done well. He cared a lot about, and would travel anywhere to taste it, to see it. But at the same time, he was not pretentious enough to say, gosh, a nice custard, cone of custard out of Carl's in Fredericksburg, he would have in a second.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. You could go from 3 Michelin star to the boardwalk in a breath,
exactly.
And it's cool. And see, like that's what really spoke to me. Again, it goes back to the Bourdain. Bourdain was my lightning rod to do this show, and that was where I found joy in your local dive bar, and he referred to it frequently. And it's like, if you can't find joy in a dark room with similar-minded savages, you're not going to find it in some fancy, white, pristine napkin. I mean, Bouchon in California is lovely. Yep. Thomas Keller does wonderful things there, and they invited me back. I have to tell you, I have to, gossip share with you, because this is so cool to talk to somebody who gets it. And, I saw 3 Michelin stars hanging on the wall in the kitchen, and I saw Joël Robuchon's autograph on the wall, and, Paul Bocuse signed the wall.
Paul Bocuse, yep.
I saw this. I was in the presence of these autographs. And again, to your point before, you're going on about Joe Baum as a celebrity. I'm looking at this shit, pointing to it and saying to my wife, legends. Look at these. Yeah. And she's like, who? I'm like, God damn it. Come on, Gloria.
I'll tell you, we went to, oh my God, I'm going to have a brain fart.
That's all right.
The chicken in the city, is it Jonathan Waxman's?
Jonathan Waxman's. Yes, it's, hang on. You start talking. Closed. Yes.
Yeah. And
you start talking, I'll find it.
So that night it was about, that restaurant was closing the same time as Carl's was opening up. Begin with a B. Oh my God. And so I always wanted to go there and have that chicken, and I never got there. And so Carl's like, we can go. I'm like, Carl, we can't go because the restaurant is closing. It's private only this last week. He's like, I'm telling you, we can go. I said, Carl, we can't go. I'm not going to knock on doors just because your name. And he's like, no. So you're telling me you don't want to go to the restaurant? I'm like, no, I do want to go to the restaurant. He goes, so then we can go. I said, no, we can't. So this went back and forth. So finally we went to the restaurant. We're outside. Oh my God, I can't believe I can't remember the name of it because he reopened it.
Jaybird.
No, the other one.
All right.
So anyway, so we get to the restaurant.
Barbuda.
Yes, but I said it was a big.
You did. You're right.
I get like stuck in my head. So we get there and we're outside and he tells me to wait outside. So Jonathan Waxman's sister's outside. She's taking pictures. His daughter and her daughter just graduated from Princeton. It's a big night. It's a private party. And again, it's the next to last night that the restaurant's going to be open. And I'm standing outside. Next thing I hear, Gloria! screaming from inside the restaurant. And he goes, come on. I'm like, I can't. And so now the entire city in New York has heard my name. I walk in and we bump into the Forgiones.
Oh, fantastic. Wow.
Father and son are standing and my jaw hits the ground and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I start walking to get away because I'm like, so we talk about celebrity and I'm like, oh my God. And Carl is cracking up and I walk and I trip. And who do I trip? I'm now tripping over Marcus Samuelsson and,
oh my Lord.
Andrew Zimmerman. And I'm like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, Jonathan Waxman sees Carl and he screams for him to come across. So now we're crossing the room to go over that way. So then the next thing I hear Carl's name again. And now it's Alex Cornicelli on the opposite side of the room. And, Carl, come. So then this man stands up extends his hand to me, and he goes, "Hi." He goes, "My name is Bobby Flay." I'm like, you need to tell me your name?
Stop it.
Like, I swear to God,
Stop
you couldn't
it.
be nicer, sweeter, kinder. And he's like, "How are you?" And he starts talking about like, okay, I am in a dream. And Carl the entire time is laughing his ass off.
Of course he is.
Because he's watching me see this. And to him, he's just walking through a bar. Like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, asshole, you did this on purpose. And he says, yeah, I did. And it worked. And this is like the best. And then from there, we have this great time. We talk, whatever. And we leave there and we go to the Standard. At that point, that was Rocco was running that.
Yeah.
And so we go over and we sit at this table. He goes, okay, we're going to go see Rocco. I'm like, oh, right. So we sit down and now my jaw is like on the table. I'm like, and Rocco couldn't have been any nicer, sweeter, kinder, and just, we're shooting this shit, just talking. And Carl is laughing hysterically. He's like, you know what happens when I put a female in front of Rocco? That's it. I lose it. He's like, you know how many dates I've lost? He goes, the only thing, Gloria, I know is you're married, so I'm not too worried about you, but anybody else I bring, it's gone. I lose them to Rocco.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. It just was hysterical.
That's incredible. And this is what I try to explain to people. And this is, this is year 7 I'm in, Gloria, doing this show. So, I like to think I'm still hitting my stride. But, people will ask me who are in the know. Like, for example, I had, Stephen Reichlin, Project Smoke. I had, Chris Kimball from America's Test Kitchen on.
Yep.
And people who know that, again, these are celebrities to you and I, and, others it falls flat. But when they know it, they're like, holy shit, like Stephen Reichlin did a thing for my wife's 40th birthday video. Like he recorded a little thing. And, Harvard lecturer on the history of barbecuing.
Yep, absolutely.
It's so funny when people realize that, to that end, these are human beings who are just in a really tight-knit community. And like they know one another and they get one another. And if you're in that circle, you're in, man. Like, you're in. I'm on the periphery. I'm not even in the circle. I'm like on the nosebleed seats, but I'm still in the stadium, and I feel that from time to time. And so
I've been to enough Bruce concerts that I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know where I'm at then. For you being right there on the ground, right there next to the stage, man, that's you. That had to be amazing.
It is, and what I will say is that post Carl's passing, the generosity and the kindness and the the camaraderie
Yeah.
that's been continued has been mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a one and done, we'll see you at the funeral. Everybody has been genuinely just good, kind, friendly, supportive, checking in here or there. I can't say enough great things about the people in this industry and their love of Carl. And by that, an extension that I've been able to make some amazing friends from.
Yeah. And that's really, I tell a story back when Tony first passed, how I had interviewed. Here's a fun story of how everything's connected. Grill Bitch was a neighbor of my wife's sorority sister in Manhattan. And that's how we met. That's how we interviewed the first time. And since then, now her daughter and my kids are good friends. She comes, she spends the weekend, spends a week,
Nice.
depending on the event. You take care. But I remember that morning getting the text and like sitting down and like centering myself, because for me, I'm sure, you have goals, all throughout your career. For me, 100 was going to be, I got to find Tony's agent, I got to talk to him, and I got to get him on the show. Like that's going to be my thing. And then it's like, sorry, check's cashed.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do? And it's a gut punch, but like, whereas I'm typically, I've typically been a pretty selfish person as an only child, my immediate thought was to reach out to Beth, to others around him.
Sure.
And just say like, are you okay? And I realized in that moment, I'm like, God damn, this industry is tight.
Yep.
Tight. I think if there's no better word than tight, and I'm so glad that those in the industry, who you've connected with are still, tight with you like that. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So like, talk to me about present day. Like, I know you and I were trying to schedule because you're all West Coast Gloria. Oh, I got 3 hours difference. But like, you're on the move. What are you doing now?
I work still for the same company that in terms of contract food service, and I support a channel which is specifically retirement communities, and so high-end white glove kind of level, and travel and support and work through how we're doing the best job we possibly can, that we're meeting the contract, that we're the menus where it needs to be, that we're creating the events that need to be, and so it puts me across the country right now, east to west coast. Yeah.
Amazing. And I mean, you love that? Do you have something in the holster, or is that what you're going to just ride on for a while?
I think I'm going to ride here. I still work. I work with Rocco, and I work with Justin Warner on some side projects, just to keep my hands in the funnel, if you will, of that world that I used to help Carl with, and I just love those guys dearly. So Rocco's getting ready to open up a concept in the city. Justin has his place that he opened up a Japanese restaurant, a ramen bar, if you will, in Rapid City, North Dakota, and it's like going like gangbusters. Brilliant. The guy is so freaking brilliant. It kills me. He built an entire ramen bar with not any hooding or ventilation. He did it all on induction burners. And so he was able to cut the cost of a restaurant unbelievably, and his speed of service is spot on.
Gotta be fast. Where was that Japanese restaurant at?
It's in Rapid City, North Dakota.
Wow.
And it's killing. Like, I'm like, really? This is what you're doing? He's like, yeah. And it's like, it's standing room only to get the product.
Wow.
Right?
I can't. So Justin Warner and Rocco DiSpirito, for those, again, sitting there going, Justin who and Rocco who? That is Justin Warner, right? The Bokujo ramen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got it. And then Rocco again with the concept. I love how casual Gloria's sitting here dropping first names, and I'm going, shit, really? Wow, what? Like literally giggling to myself like I'm an idiot. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
And that's the coolest thing, is that everybody really is not about the names. They're just about people, and it's networking and building on ideas and doing whatever. And that's what Carl did.
Yeah, he did.
And the thing about Carl was he kept his worlds pretty separate. There was the watch people. There were the car people. There was the radio people. And so, unfortunately, when he passed, that's literally what I did was I made categories of who to call by that's how I did it. And what's happened is the worlds have collided now. Yeah. And so where he kept them very separate and sacrosanct, they've now merged, and it's just turned into this really amazing group of people who has the commonality of loving Carl.
Yeah. Yeah. And, wow. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine that's a short supply by any means. I think my biggest regret, truth be told, was that, I didn't pull the trigger quicker on that, because I think we could have had a fun time, a fun ride. I have a feeling our personalities would have melded well on air, to say the least.
Doubt. He loved it. He loved nothing more than to get in front of a microphone. He had no issue with it at all. He did / did not. You are correct there. Hey, Gloria, let me ask you some afters here before I let you go, because I know it's late. I know we all got things to do, but I'm love. I couldn't honestly be more in a happy place right now. So if I drag my feet, I blame you. As Carl would.
Yeah, exactly. Gloria! Let's do some afters here. I feel so good wearing the hat and yelling in that voice, because now it feels right. It feels good.
Sure.
I have to show you the side by side. I had a COVID beard, and I've always had the black chunky glasses, and I did a side by side, and people lost their shit on Instagram. They're like, "Oh my god!" I'll show you. You'll appreciate it. Anyway, sidebar there. Afters for Gloria Chabot. I'm standing in your kitchen. You can pick professionally or at home. Your pick completely. Yep. What are we listening to while we work?
Oh, Bruce, for sure.
Bruce.
Always.
All right. We'll take Bruce. I love the certainty of that. Speaks to me. Like, good.
It's just my whole life. It's just, he grew up in the town next to me where I grew up in New Jersey, and it's just been the background of my life. There's
some loyalty there, people. If you are not familiar with the Bruce Springsteen loyalists, beware. They're going to be the next political party, I assure you. Gloria, I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question here. You're going to be stranded on a deserted island, and you can only take 3 foods or food type items with you, be they condiments, equipment, what have you. Unlimited supply through the magic of imagination, but only 3 things. What would they be and why?
It would be sugar.
Nice.
Eggs.
See, that's a damn
flour.
chef right there. That's a damn chef right there. She knows you can catch your fish out of the water. She knows you can see. It's so funny how classically trained chefs answer that, and how, like, cooks would be like, well, I'd like some maple cured bacon, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, catch a pig. Do it yourself. Stop being lazy. That's beautiful. I appreciate that. Hey, have you checked out the works of Melanie Denea? My Last Supper and The Next Course, 2 amazing books.
No, I've not, which
God.
is unusual because I have over 800 cookbooks.
I love sharing this. So they're not cookbooks. Melanie Denea is a world-class photographer, and what she would do in each book is take 50 world-class chefs and take one picture. This is the one where you get the Anthony Bourdain with the beef femur hanging between his legs. She did that one.
Yep,
and they're all asked the same question, and it revolves around the famous late-night chef drinking game. Your ticket's getting punched tomorrow. Your last meal's today. What is it? What are you eating? What are you drinking? And why?
It would be a Jim Beam and a beer, for sure.
Carl.
Because I know that's what I'll be drinking in short order when I meet up with Carl.
Carl.
And the meal would probably be... It actually would be a slice of apple pie.
Nice. Wow. You went minimal on me here.
Just simple. It didn't have to be big. It just is a perfect apple pie done right is really the epitome of pastry.
I adore that. That may be one of the most stunning answers over 7 years, because everybody goes deep, and, like, I felt the need to do it too, and I actually, like, there wasn't going to be anybody there, but I was going to make it for myself. That was the big comeuppance, but it's like, here's 20 minutes on what I'd make for me, and you're like, apple pie. Perfect.
Yeah,
like,
just simple.
Stop. Oh my God, that's so good. It's so damn good, Gloria. And last question, the most basic, but the most complex. Okay. What is food to you in a single word?
Love.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I got to imagine love would be the answer that came echoed behind.
Yep.
I can't imagine otherwise, because I just think it's so amazing. Like, and I'm relishing this. And, I've known Carl virtually for years, and I'm just knowing you now, but the echoes that I hear are just amazing. And I think, wow, what a great answer. What a great response. And
thanks.
I know for certain that after the Jim Beam and beer got put down, and several thereafter, love would be maybe drawn out a little bit more as he said it, but I think love would be there. It would.
It's what he watched in it. What any of us in the industry do is to look at your face after you're eating that food, and when you can see, it's transformative.
It is. It takes you out of whether it's a shitty day, whether it's a funeral, whether it's.
Yep.
It's crazy what food can do for you, can do through you, and can do in you. And Gloria, I gotta say, it has been beyond an honor, and truly, I thank you from the very bottom of my heart for enabling me to tribute a great culinary presence and learn of a great culinary presence in you. So, thank you so much. Fun. Yeah, good times indeed. Chef Carl Ruiz on Facebook. Hey, listen, as restaurants open back up again to 100% and you go out and you start eating, don't start going back to your old stingy habits. Please don't do that. Look up the hashtag Don't Stop Ruizing and learn how to tip, not like an asshole. Look it up, learn how to treat folks who are now just getting back into the workforce. Take care of them. They need our help now more than ever. Hashtag Don't Stop Ruizing. Look it up. Anything else that I'm missing, Gloria?
I would say you can look at Don't Stop Ruizing, and the other one would be hashtag Ate It. That was the other thing that Carl started just before he left us. And it's a way to find his reviews on food. Hashtag
Ate It. So hashtag Ate It. Hashtag Don't Stop Ruizing. Chef Carl Ruiz on Facebook. Anything Guy Fieri, anything, Rocketo de Spirito, and just, did I just say Rocketo? Jesus Christ.
Rocco, Justin, Artie Seguera, pick them all, Antonio LaFasa. I mean, everybody out of the Guy world is just an amazing supporter of Carl, and somebody that we definitely want to support back. I mean,
yeah. Bottom line, check it out. Stay paying attention. Justin Warner, Bokujo Ramen, Rocco DeSpirito coming up. All things. Stay tuned. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our contacts, and I'll be glad to help you promote whatever I possibly can, Gloria. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Be well.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 167 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me again this evening, the illustrious, inimitable Chef Gloria Chabot. Our producer this evening has always been the Reverend Johnny Lamoria, a.k.a. Johnny Leland Robinson. Be sure to check out the Johnny Lamoria Show reboot on Facebook. And the next episode, number 168, we're going to take it back to a little small town action that, truthfully, it'll be a place only Carl Ruiz could love. Check it out. Are you passing through Central Pennsylvania and looking for one of the best dining experiences and craft brew menus around? Look no further. Turkey Hill Brewing Company and 991 Central Road in Bloomsburg, PA has everything you could ask for and then some. Service, food, beer together. Unbelievable. Be sure to check them out. Call them today for reservations. 570-387-8422. Call today.